I welcome you all to the fourth episode of Sync series, brought to you by Synergy, the annual technical symposium of mechanical engineering. Today we will be syncing with Chendur Singaram, an alumnus of NIT Trichy. He is currently working as software engineer in Reflexon Medical, working on cancer curing robot systems. He is a postgraduate from the prestigious Carnegie Mellon University, specializing in robotics. He has also experience in interns from Uber, Virginia Tech, and IIT Madras. He is also the founder of the technical club Designers Consortium, a club that has grown tremendously in a short span since its inception. He was also the chairman of MEA or Mechanical Engineering Association at NIT Trichy. So I'm sure that this sync session will be quite inspiring as well as informative for all the students, especially the people who are keen on pursuing hires abroad and building your career in general. So without further ado, I welcome Chendur Anna to this session. So let's begin. Hi Anna. Um, how are you? First of all, how's everything going on there?
Hi all, thanks for the introduction, Hari. Yeah, everything is going good here. It feels like being home as it's for Synergy. And I did follow this Sync series. Great work. Yeah.
Well, hope you're safe there with all the pandemic situation and all.
Yeah, I'm safe. Hope you guys are safe as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, Anna, can you tell us briefly about your journey from NITT, your experiences there to Carnegie Mellon, how you planned for it, how the processes went, and so on?
So initially, I didn't have any specific plan towards doing masters or something. So first, I went for a second year internship at IIT Madras. At that time, not many people go to internships at IIT like how they go right now. At that time, maybe like 5 from my class went. And then in third year, I did my internship at Virginia Tech. It was related to assistive robotics. So only after that, I thought, okay, I should pursue masters related to robotics. And I did masters in mechanical engineering at CMU, but specialized in robotics. And of course, DC helped me a lot during the way at NIT. Yeah.
So, how was your experience at Carnegie Mellon University, and what were the major takeaways from your master's course?
So the first semester at Carnegie Mellon University was very overwhelming. Like a new place, lots of great minds, and the professors, half of them have like Wikipedia page for themselves. And in the courses that they teach, they cover algorithms that they had found. And working on projects, working with even other students, it's always inspiring and it makes you keep moving forward. And I didn't write software in NIT Trichy, but specializing in robotics, I had to explore software engineering as well at CMU. So I had to spend lots of time. So during the 2 years at CMU, I didn't cook to save 20 minutes or 30 minutes a day. So that if you account for 20 minutes a day, it's like 120 hours over a year. So you can complete a mini project in that, or you can use that for traveling or something like that. So every habit that I do per day that takes up even a few minutes, I tried cutting short that so that I can get that extra time to be more focused. Because people who are already there, they had lots of software engineering experience as well. So to match with them and to work on the courses, catch up, and do the assignments and projects. The curve was had a huge slope, so I had to match that. And my first semester was very overwhelming, but I learned all the fundamentals that I could for robotics. And so after graduating, even now, if I take any courses outside for in a different field that's related to robotics, I can still catch up and try to understand or grasp the concept. So that's my first major takeaway from CMU, is to learn any new subject or topic using the fundamentals that I learned at CMU. Yeah.
Okay, that is actually very interesting the way you manage time. I should say that, yeah. So, since we spoke about robotics, what will be your advice for the juniors who wish to pursue hires in robotics in specific?
Okay. So the first thing is robotics is basically like you're solving a math problem using computer science. So you need to be very much comfortable with mathematics. like generally liking mathematics. If you don't like mathematics, then probably you shouldn't do robotics. You should also be good in programming, but you can only consider it as a tool, but not as uh, a primary field of interest that you would do. So, but understanding maths is a very much important. So during your undergrad, you can take up projects where you deal with actual hardware, because robotics is generally hard. It's not just a computer simulation. You want a hardware to actually do stuff. Like in a simulation, you can make an earth spin in the reverse direction, but that's not true in reality. So you want to deal with the real world. So if you're applying for robotics, I would say take up an actual hardware robot and just start programming or start applying different algorithms using math. And this is also the best way to learn robotics during your undergrad and for applying for hires, and also during hires. So like during hires, I wanted to work on different robot hardware. So I worked on like leg robots, pipe robots, quadcopters, or self-driving trucks, cars, and so on. So you need to be exposed to different kind of robots, what they do, what algorithm suits them, and so on. That knowledge would be very helpful. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And and speaking in general, so how do we decide which field or specialization should I opt for during higher? This is something I think everyone are worried about. Most of us during college won't have an in-depth knowledge of different fields. So how do we narrow down the choices and take a decision?
Okay. So firstly, there are two ways by which you can do masters. First is you explore different topics open-mindedly, and you choose the topic that you like the most. And then if that topic demands you to get more knowledge for you to be well versed in that field, then you can do masters. Another way is some people, even beforehand, they just decide, okay, I'm going to do masters. I'll pick a field which has the scope for masters, and then I'll work on that so that my undergrad is aligned with masters. So it should fall in either these two places. So my case was in the first way, where I liked mechanisms. I was working on kinematics and dynamics. And after my third year internship, I thought, okay, let me do masters, because I'm interested in robotics side to use my mechanisms knowledge for robotics. So that's how I decided, okay, I'll do masters in robotics. But if you have decided on masters in the beginning, you can just explore different topics. You can start from your first year. There are lots of YouTube channels. You don't have to take a course or a book and then read it. Like if you're interested in automobiles, there's a YouTube channel called Engineering Explained, which during my first semester, I was just watching videos. It covers lots of mechanisms as well. So for different fields, there are definitely YouTube channels. So you don't have to, it's not like you have to read a book to understand what causes something. So today we are overwhelmed with content. There is so much information on YouTube and Coursera, edX or something. So all you have to do is choose all fields, just watch a couple of videos, and you'll know at least what kind of sparks you. And then you can do a project on that. And then you can see why your interests lead you to. So
Okay. So, while applying for hires, how to shortlist colleges, how to get to know which colleges are good for so and so specializations, and how to get to know about different specializations available.
okay. So firstly, when you're applying for any specialization, it's better to have like a more broader degree under you. Say if you're doing something in like thermal engineering, you might prefer masters in mechanical engineering than a degree which says master in thermal engineering. It's just that on a long run, as a degree, it will help you more. So while you're applying for a degree, you should choose which is more broader, like generally, like, mechanical. If it's automobile, maybe you can prefer automobile because that by itself is broad, but you shouldn't go very specific. If there's a specialization where they're offering degree, like say, a master's in biomechanical design specifically or something, and maybe it's not, it needn't be that preferred until it's like super famous and well known and acknowledged and all that. So in terms of what you can do inside the college, so once you get an admit, say masters, say you said you can always change your field of interest after going to masters. So you can say you're interested in say dynamics or something like that. But once you get to college, you realize that you're more interested, or you find good courses in say machine learning. You can always shift your field. Even if you're doing your masters in mechanical, you can still learn machine learning and become an engineer related to that field. So a sliding within the department is definitely possible. But while you're shortlisting colleges in the beginning, what you need to look for is See, let's say most of the Google search they have some lots of rankings. Like if you just search robotics, best robotic schools, something like that, different websites give you different rankings. So you'll know as to which colleges have. But if you want to go in depth as to and look for, say you're interested in computer vision and robotics, then you can look for inside each college how many profs are working on computer vision. So you'll have a list of faculty. So if there's only one prof who's working on computer vision, and if there's only one lab or a small lab with not so many engineers or something, with not so many students working on that, then you'll know that, okay, maybe I needn't apply for this college because it's not so well versed in this field that I'm looking for. So your first shortlist should be the basic rankings of all the colleges for your specialization, which you can just find from Google search. And then after going into the college, you can look at the list of faculties, and you can see which faculty is working on what. The more the number of faculties generally working on a particular field, it means that generally they are focusing their research more towards that, and you can apply to that particular college. That's like the standard intuitive knowledge by which you can approach shortlisting colleges.
Yeah. So could you tell us about your internship experiences and how you secured internships, especially in Virginia Tech as well as in IIT Madras?
Okay, so my grades were low at NIT Trichy. I have less than 8.5 CGPA. And while I applied for masters, my GRE was less than 320. So as a student with 7-pointer or an 8-pointer, you should think of different ways by which you can get internships. If you're just simply emailing profs, that may not work. At least for me. If you want to get a really good internship, like because the 9-pointers they apply to like DAD, MyTax, and so on. So if you want to stand out, you have to do something out of the box. So my second year internship was that. Can I tell a story? So it's a story. Can I tell?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So in second year, how I got the internship was that the holidays started. At that time it wasn't prominent as it is now to do internship at IIT Madras or any IITs. Very few people did in my batch. So at that time it was holidays, and then I called up my friend and I asked him if we can go watch a movie. Then he said he was in IIT Madras interning. I was like, okay, what's all this? And then he told me that you can contact a prof and so on. So I was very interested. This was in the end of second year, and that's when DC had started and was going in kind of a flow. So I also wanted to experience. So on that day, I visited IIT Madras in person. I was in Chennai. So I didn't contact the prof, but I just visited IIT Madras, and I had a resume already edited. So I just printed it and I met the prof directly in person. But they said they had already taken an intern who was from my class. And then but the prof still said, okay, you can show me your resume. And I showed her resume, and then she looked at it and she said, okay, they liked that I actually approached them in person and then asked, like, no one has visited them in person. So I think they just thought, okay, he's very interested to do a project, he has come in person and so on. So they said, okay, that I can start my internship at IIT Madras. So that's how I got my second year internship. So during my third year, when I was applying for internships, it wasn't as easy as my second year internship, how I secured it. So it was end of March. I was emailing profs and I still hadn't got any internships. So around first or second week of April, I decided to do my second year thing to go meet a prof in person. So I traveled to Bangalore, and I took my formals, and I had a file with my resume and all that. And then I traveled in person. I met the prof, and then he got furious. He didn't like that I just randomly barged into his room. So he asked me to get out and all that. So after that, I returned back to Trichy. Yeah, of course, I didn't tell my friends or parents. Maybe they would have stopped me or something. I didn't want any external things to affect my decision, so I just went. So after he got so furious and he sent me back. So I came back to Trichy, and then within 2 weeks, the semester exams were going to start. So I just thought I'll email a final set of uh, properly changed resume, email content, and everything, and then I email profs to foreign profs. And out of that, I called one of the profs. Luckily, he was in his office when I called him. So he also had a free time for an hour. So I was able to talk to him about my third year Sangam project that I did on wheelchair. And he liked it. And then that's how I got Virginia Tech internship. And it was after this internship that I decided that I would do masters, because I needed that confidence. Okay, I have a good internship now with full-fledged confidence I can apply to masters. If I hadn't got that, maybe I wouldn't have had that confidence, or who knows, maybe I would have opted for placements as well. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Speaking about hires, uh, ideally, when should we start searching for universities and the preparations for applying for hires? When should we start that?
Okay. So with respect to hires, I started in August, that is beginning of the final year. So right after my third year summer internship got over, that's when I started shortlisting the colleges. And I prepared for GRE only for a month, but I would recommend people preparing for more time. I got a less than 320 GRE. Maybe if you can have a better GRE score, that really helps a lot. And also, do not believe in any preconceptions that people might tell you. Someone might tell you that, oh, it's difficult. Like people told me that, oh, you should have a 330 GRE and you should be a 9 pointer for applying to SameU and so on. But it's a wholesome application process. So it also depends on your project, how good they are. But having said that, it's always better to have a good GRE and a GPA. But it's not everything. What a project cannot do, nothing else cannot do. So it's very important factor. You can start preparing for GRE maybe a little bit earlier the better. But I started around August and I started writing my SOP. I spent a lot of time on my statement of purpose actually. I spent like 2 months solid time every day for 3-4 hours or something. And it's also important that you have a mentor or one person with whom you can send your statement of purpose and ask their feedback. That's because statement of purpose is also very important, which is generally overlooked over GRE. People spend more time for GRE than for statement of purpose. I think it should be other way around, or at least equal amount of time. And I was lucky because I contacted this senior. I didn't know her, but I just knew that she got into Stanford. It's Ayushi Tiwari, 1 year senior. So I approached her and said that, hey, I'm applying for masters. Can you review my SOP and so on? So I think even now my grammar is bad, but she even made all the grammar changes in my SOP, and yeah. So that helps. So earlier the better, but you can start from beginning of final year. Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for that. So speaking about the application, you mentioned that SOP is quite important as well. So can you tell us about what should we keep in mind while preparing the SOP, and what do you think made your application stand out among others?
About SOP, while you're writing, it shouldn't be an extended version of your resume. You shouldn't just describe in detail about whatever points you've mentioned in your resume. Rather, you should talk about what things failed, or how you iterated, or what all methods did you try, why did a method work, and why didn't something work, or something like that. So you should talk more about what all you did during a project rather than just talking about the success story of your. You shouldn't just mention the end result. You should tell about what made you go for that project, and why did you choose that project, and what all hardships you faced, and so on. And your motivation should be very clear about as to why you want to do masters, what you intend to learn, and what's also your future plan after masters, because all the other applicants will make sure that they have mentioned this clearly laid out as to their future plan. Because if you're not clearly telling them why you want to do masters, so even if your profile is good, they'd be like, okay, what's the motivation behind you doing masters, is the question that comes up. So you can, so that's the thing you should keep in mind for your statement of purpose. Yeah. So for standing out with application, like I don't know, maybe as a 9 pointer, things were given to you in a golden plate. You have a DAD, you might have a DAD internship or something like that. But for people like me, like if you have a lesser grade, like less than 8.5 or less than GRE 320 or something like that, in that case, you should make sure that every other aspect of your application is good, like including letter of recommendation or the projects that you have done. And it would be better if you can publish a research paper. That really helps. I had one research paper that I had submitted, but it wasn't accepted. It later got accepted, but it still means a lot that you have written a paper and then you have submitted it. So even though it's not approved, if you have only submitted it, you can still mention that. And good projects, letter of recommendation, and statement of purpose. All the other aspects should be really strong if you don't have a good grade or a GRE. And I heard that I don't know how true is this story, but I heard that once a guy to MIT for applications, he made a voice recorder from junk materials. So if you click on a button, it reads out his SOP. So he packaged it and sent it as a mail to the MIT, and in the application process where it says things you might want to mention is he just gave the tracking number or something like that for them to pick up the package and then use it. So it's not fixed, right? Like as far as you can prove that you're good, as far as you can show that, oh, even though I have a lesser grade or something like that, I can do stuff and I have done stuff. If you can prove that, then that's it. End of story. Nothing else matters. So yeah.
Okay. So related to applying for hires, what is your advice on low CGPA people applying for hires? How can they improve their chance of getting into a good university? I'm sure that many people are worried about the CGPA, especially if they want to go for hires. And many people tend to go for placements because their CGPA is low. So, what is your advice to them?
So I think even if you have a low CGPA, I don't know what you meant by low CGPA, but when I applied, I had 8.1 GPA. I consider it as low. And my GRE was less than 320. So if you're in your, say, third year and you're going to apply for masters, you can always try to improve your GRE score, so that adds up more value to your application. But irrespective of whether you have good GPA, good GRE, or whatever it is, your projects should be solid. So just make sure you have a very good statement of purpose, a good projects, and also letter of recommendation. Because in the master's application, you can, let's be honest, you can do anything, you can write anything, right, in your resume. You can write anything in your statement of purpose, but who validates it? A letter of recommendation is from a prof. So he actually knows you and he writes about you. So if you can get a very good letter of recommendation, that would definitely boost your application a lot. So even though you have a lesser GPA or a lesser GRE score, that really helps. And also sometimes at NIT, they ask the students to write an LOR, letter of recommendation. It's better if the prof itself writes than you writing the letter of recommendation. I was lucky that I got all my letter of recommendations written by profs because they have a particular language. You can definitely not match that. So I feel you should definitely approach a prof who can write a letter of recommendation for you. And this includes also from the profs with whom you did internship from. So I did my internship at Virginia Tech for third year. So for my third year, and I got a recommendation letter from him. So that definitely stands out. And also publishing a paper can help you a lot because it's, masters and it's like a research kind of a thing. And if you have at least a paper submitted, that still helps you a lot. And yeah, I think if you concentrate on all the other aspects of the application, it should give you a good boost, even if you have a lesser GPA. And while you're applying for colleges, as I said, like don't listen to others when they say, oh, it's not possible for you to get this college or something. You do the math for yourself. You go to LinkedIn and all you have to do, let's say you want to find a profile of someone from Stanford, from NIT Trichy. All you have to do is just type in the keywords in Google search, NIT Trichy, Stanford, LinkedIn. You're going to get profile of people. You can talk to them, and or you sometimes the score is also listed, so you'll get a honest feedback of what is what, than you going for a random website and then if he tells you, oh, it's not possible for you to get into this college or something. I was open-minded when I was shortlisting colleges, when I was applying for masters, but still I missed out on a few colleges which I could have applied where I would have got an admit. But anyway, end of the day, I did my master's the same year. But I'm just saying, in the beginning, when you're applying for masters, you can be careful about these. While do not blindly accept anything what your friends say. You check it for yourself. You do the math. And having said all this, if you have low GPA, you should definitely have a mentor or someone who can look at your profile, who can tell what's lacking, what's not lacking, why you can improve, and so on. That I think is very much important because you can assume a lot of things, but once someone who has done masters, if he or she looks at your profile and if they can give a feedback based on their experiences, then you can act based on that. So I think these help. And also starting, if you have decided to do masters early, you can start this process early as well. You can you can start talking to people from the beginning and then start getting their feedback. And you can also align your internships based on that.
Okay, that was
Okay.
really helpful. It was really nice. Okay. Um, so many people opt for 2 years work and then go for hires, while many others do hires directly. So, what is the difference that can arise while following either of these? And which one do you suggest?
So I think this decision is mainly field dependent. So if you're doing anything like robotics, your actual learning starts in masters. So I would suggest you go for masters or higher education, even a PhD first, and then to go for work, because you actually learn the higher order math during masters, and you get exposed to a lot of your field specific specialization during masters. But take the case of automobile, it would be better if you get like 2-3 years of experience first, and then if you go to masters, you know what's actually used in the industry, and then you can pick your topics and courses related to that during your hires, so that will be more useful for you while you apply for job. So I think it's very field dependent. And you can, to find this out, you can just, look at profile of people who did masters in the US or in any other country in a field of specialization that you want. So you can look at what they went through. You can talk to them and also find out. That's one other way. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. In your opinion, which is better, gate or placements?
I didn't attempt for both, but my suggestion would be, if you want to work, or if you want to work for a few years, or if you want to earn, or if you want to push it for, these are like two varied things, right? So it depends on whether you want to study or you want to earn and work. So these are like two different lifestyle even. But if you're not very much specific about what field you want to pursue or something like that, you can maybe opt for work unless you're very much determined about gate, because you're, once you start working, maybe, who knows, you might be interested in MBA, or you might be interested in masters or something else as well. So it gives you just an option. But if you're very much clear about what you want to do in gate, then you can go ahead. If not, it's like a call that you need to take. Yeah.
So, can you tell us about the differences between the academic culture in universities abroad, say US, and in India, say NIT?
Okay. So with respect to academic culture in US, I can talk with respect to SAMU. So the difference is that in NIT Trichy, we have exams, right? In SAMU, I had one exam for one course in my first semester. So apart from that, all the other courses in every semester was only based on assignments and projects. So you're graded, when you're graded based on that, so what we are doing is already a practical experience. You're implementing them. So they're not testing you on the theory, but they are testing you on the implementation of the theory. So at NIT Trichy, we have exams for everything. So it's only theory. Our implementation is only comes in the lab, which doesn't have the weightage that we have for the theory. So I think that's one important difference. But in terms of lectures, you can kind of compare. There are really good lecturers at NIT Trichy as well. In every department, they do have good lecturers, of course. So you can kind of compare it with here. So I think the major difference is based on the way we learn rather than what we learn.
Okay, so my next question is related to your career, like your current job. Could you give us an insight about your job at Reflexion Medical, and how is mechanical present in your current job as software engineer?
Okay. So currently at Reflection Medical, we have a, so to put it in very layman terms, we have a rotating component, which is the major part of the machine, which spins at 60 RPM. So my job here is I write physics, I write dynamics equation for that. It's a non-linear equation. I model that. I write physics equation for that. I solve a differential equation in math. That's where the mechanism part actually comes in. So it can be modeled as a pendulum dynamics. So that's the mechanism aspect, and that's the part where I work in, where I simplify the math to make it more faster in the software. So I deal with the part where I can make the physics simpler for the software to compute it and then give the result. So it's like an intersection between software and the hardware. So as a software engineer, I cannot work in a Facebook or Netflix or something, which is pure software. So I write software for a hardware where there's actually moving components where I write physics equations. And then I model those equations in software and then I solve them. So that's my nature of work in a very basic terms. Yeah. So once I write a software, I deploy it on the actual hardware and test it. I get the logs data. I post process check if it matches the way I want it to run. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was insightful. Speaking about the application for hires, you did mention that being part of DC did play a good role, right? So, how much significance in general does being part of technical club or doing technical projects have in securing hires selections?
Okay. So the main purpose of being in a technical club is to do projects. So if you're just part of any technical club and if you're not doing projects, it's not at all worth it. So do not be a part of technical club just for the sake of being part of it. And don't think if you mention it in your resume saying, oh, I was part of this, but if you have never worked on any projects, it's of no use. So the main component is to work on actually good projects. So even if you're not part of any club and if you're still managing to do good projects, that's still equivalent. So it's not necessary that you have to be part of technical club. Just that as far as you can get experience and get good projects, that should do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, while you were in college, I'm sure you were pretty active in the co-curricular activities throughout your college life. Especially you found DC and you were the chairman of MEA and you were in other activities as well. So, how did you plan your application process around it?
So primarily, I was only part of DC and Synergy MEA team. I wasn't, of course, in my final year, I had two portions of responsibilities, like chairman for this and president for this. That was like a kind of a lot of weight. But generally, people are part of lots of clubs. But as a portions of responsibility, as two teams, maybe some had. I'm not quite familiar with. So what I did was during my third year internship, I came one month late for college. So for the 1 month, for the last 1 month of my internship, I was still in the US. So my juniors actually handled the induction process for DC. I wasn't even here. So they conducted the briefing and they, started with the first round of applications and for inductions and so on. So I shifted a lot of DC work to my juniors during that time. But still, I was still mentoring. I didn't tell them that, hey, I'm going through this application process, which is stressing me out, or I didn't even mention a word to them. But it was just within me. Of course, I didn't want that baggage to be on them. But it was more like, the juniors was really good. I think that's how I managed. The team was really good. Like each and everyone in DC, they were like very much forthcoming to take up work and do it. So that's how I think I was able to manage it and manage the application process. Also, even having said that, you do have lots of time even outside of that. Like if you can just skip some movie watching time or going out for dinner or something like that, you can still manage to find time. So it's not like a Herculean task, but it sometimes it can be like a weight on your head. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, since we spoke about DC, so I think we'll discuss few more things related to DC as well. So, what was your vision for the club when it started, and at what situation did you realize that a club like DC is something that the college lacks currently?
So, say I have an idea, a project idea or something, which is like, let's say I want to design a new kind of a bicycle with some mechanism. So the first thing that strikes me is which club can I join so that I can do similar kind of projects. So there's a aero modeling club, there's a club which does automobile work, but there's no club. There's like everything outside of this space which a club isn't doing. So, but my initial idea wasn't to build products for DC. It was only purely designing. It was only about just software modeling. That's how it started as. But then it struck me that you can design anything that you want in software, but it will prove as a proper design only if you can actually fabricate it. So any designer, in my opinion, should have really good idea about how it can be manufactured, because that's when your design also gets better. So once you know how a thing is actually getting manufactured, you'll make your components design more efficient in the first place. So we pivoted our idea from a pure modeling based club to actually fabricating products from a prototype. So the idea started in third semester, when I was in my third semester. So when I reached my fourth semester, I thought, okay, let's pivot to from a pure designing club to something where we actually prototype stuff. So that also created lots of rifts because I had roped in some friends, not like friends, but batchmates who I thought would be knowledgeable in the field of actually designing. But once we pivoted to actually prototyping and also designing, I had to ask and talk to a few of them, asking them to like making them not be part of the club. That was a very difficult process, and I was in my second year, and these are like friends I'm talking about from my school. And yeah, those conversations were very difficult, but just for the sake of friendship, I cannot let it affect DC at any point of time. So and also it's only a professional decision, right? It's not like, yeah. So yeah.
Okay. So about DC, how did you build on your idea for the club and turned it into a reality?
Okay, so it started in third semester. During my third semester is when I got the idea of, okay, let's build or start a club, something like related to this. So the first person I approached was Sudhakar sir, who is HOD. And then he asked me to talk to Shankar Narayanasamy sir. He's now the director of NIT Pondicherry, but he was in mechanical department at that time. And then I approached him. He was of great support. He liked the idea. He was into design. And he, in fact, I once sent him a presentation. So while I was talking to him, he asked me to make a presentation and show it to the director. This was in August 2014. So at that time, he said you should make a presentation and show it to the director. So I made one and I emailed it to him. So he said he would give me feedback, but he actually edited the presentation by himself, and then he mailed it back to me. So a prof doesn't need to do all that, but he went to great extent to help me with these small things. And I was so, I don't know, I think I should just call myself stupid. I printed the presentation slides in a paper and then showed it to the director. So that's how I first approached the director, and then Sundarajan sir. And then he just said, you can just send me a write-up or something like that. And then I made a write-up and sent it to him. So he posted it in the NIT calendar notice page saying that there's this kid, Chendur, who's starting a club or something like that. And but then, even then, no one knew the actual process of how to start a club. Like from 2014 August, the club got officially inaugurated only in like 2015 of January. Like 4 to 5 months were spent as to figuring out what document should I even produce to, because till then, like only after that, in the very next year after DC was started, Fixion was started. There was a physics based club, and then in the very next year, Maximus was started by my classmate. So, but at that point, no one knew how to start a club. So I used to roam around to admin as to like, what's the process of starting? How do you even start? How do you even go about? There's lots of funding, and I was in my second year. And all other club presidents were in their final year, and we don't have any seniors in our club. And there's this effort of inducting people from our batch itself, right? I cannot interview them and ask questions or something. So I had to contact a fourth year person whom I thought was good at this, and then I invited her to take inductions for my batchmates, like interviews, and then I got them to the club, so that it's more formal than me questioning them or something. Because once they join the thing, we need to be in a proper setting, right? So that was very crucial, and it took a lot of time. And some people, they of course they kind of laugh at you in the beginning because you're doing something out of the way. And but finally, yeah, once we started doing projects and once we started connecting events and all that, then it settled. But the first event which we conducted, 130 people registered, but 0 people turned up for the event. So that was the very first event of DC. So we learned from our mistakes in the beginning, of course, and I was devastated after this happened because it was the very first thing which we planned for DC, and then no one turned up. But we knew what went wrong and all that. And then after that, during my end of second year, we got funding. And our very first project was like a bicycle which can push some load or something like that. And our faculty advisor, I approached T. Ramesh sir. So of course, like he has been the faculty advisor for the next 3 years until I graduated. So he was a very crucial part of DC as well. I think because of Shankar Nanasamy sir, T. Ramesh sir as the faculty advisor and the director, it it still did take a lot of time. Sometimes I used to think, are we even doing something right, or am I just going around without a end point in mind? But once I inducted like the juniors, once they joined the team, and once we started doing projects, I think it kind of went smoothly. Yeah.
Okay, that's really nice. Uh, okay, so how do you feel about the current status of DC? I'm sure it has within a short span since its inception, it has grown tremendously. So, what do you feel about DC currently?
Yeah, I'm so proud of DC actually. Like when I started, I never imagined that they would go to great heights. Even when I was graduating, I just thought, okay, this club should sustain or something like that. But they did 2x work later on because they did that a project which the Trichy Corporation used for for the cleaner, and all credits goes to my immediate batch and the next batches because a founder will have this vision. He can go to any heights to get this club moving. But the first transition from that founder to the next founder, if that is successful, then the club can sustain. So Abhinash was the next president that we gave the responsibility to. So because the pattern wasn't that, right? Like I made myself the president in my second year. So I was the president for like 3 years. And then Abhinash became, so that was like a big change for them, but he handled it beautifully well. And there was lots of bonding in the team as well, I heard, because in our year when I called for the final year trip, not many came in his batch. Like all of them came. It was more work oriented in my year, and then there was also a lot of bonding, and they did really good work. And to see that so many students joining every year, so something that I did for 3 years, and even after I graduated, it's still happening for another 3 years. And the first point is so many students are getting benefited from that. There are so many projects that is coming out. So when I just scroll the website of DC with all the projects, it's like it gives me goosebumps. Yeah, so I'm very proud of it. Yeah.
Okay. So now I think we'll speak about the college life at NIT Trichy. So
Okay.
how was it like? What do you miss the college, and how was the life at NIT Trichy in general?
So yeah, my lots of good memories at NIT, which 4 years. I There has been lots of transitions during these 4 years, but there was this self search as to what I like. It's not like working in a company. No one expects you're not getting paid or something. You just have an open mind. You can do any projects that you want, and so it was really nice. And also, like in my friend circle, whenever most of the time I spend with DC. So when I go for dinner, sometimes I won't be able to go with them for dinner, but they are also understanding and something like that. There was also a lot of fun, and yeah, it was kind of more like balanced. One shouldn't tip either ways. You shouldn't be like full on work, or you shouldn't be like full on enjoying and not doing anything at any touchy, because you can definitely manage both, doing both in equal amounts. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, can you tell me any favorite memory of yours related to the department?
Favorite memories. Okay, so lots of memories, right? Like because uh, first it started with I was classed up in my third semester, and that's when DC started, and that's when synergy work started in full fledged. So all my 3 4 years were with the department mostly. So one incident, there are these small moments which puts up a smile right now. I can just, they might seem meaningless, but there's lots of inner depth to it. So one day I was in Sudhakar sir's room. He was the previous HOD until mid 2016. So I was in his room. I was talking to him about something during the 10:10 break, and towards the end, he was walking out of the room, and he was going to get coffee with other profs. So I was still talking to him. I had my 10:30 class as well. So while I was just walking with him, he doesn't call me Chendur. He calls me Chenduran for some reason. I've never asked him. So while I was walking with him, I was talking to him. I didn't even complete the sentence. I don't remember what I was talking to him about. But in between, he was like, so Chenduran, do you drink coffee? So he was inviting me for coffee. But then I don't drink coffee or tea. And I also had this class. I was like, no, I have this class as well, and I don't drink coffee or tea. So he was like, okay, let's talk later. So I mean, they always go to stuff. See, like we see them every day during the 10:10 or 10:30 break. So inviting me, he didn't have, but yeah, these are like small moments. And one other, there are actually lots. One other is that during fourth year of Synergy Day Zero, I was in this mechanical quadrangle stage. I was walking, I had some bunch of files and papers in my hand. And then I saw Arlapan sir walking from HOD room towards the quadrangle stage. Then he called me, come here. So I've never spoken to him before. So I came to him, then he said, okay, take out your phone and open camera. And I was like, it was so it was so random. I just like, just leave me alone. I want to go to work. That's how it was. So I took out my phone, I opened camera and gave it to him and I asked him like, what's this? Then he said, so you have these photographers for Synergy. They'll take pictures of people who come and they'll take pictures of events, but they won't take picture of you while you're working. Maybe they would take a picture of you while you're giving a speech, but not when you're in a candid setting. So I'll take a picture of you. This will be a memory for you when you look back later. It still felt random, but to be honest, till today, that's the only picture that I have where it's in a setting where I'm wearing this dusty t-shirt with the jeans with some bunch of papers in my hand. So yeah, those are like small moments that I have with department. Okay.
Yeah, that is really nice. So next, can you tell us about your experience as MEA chairman?
Okay. So MEA chairman, during my final year, I just thought I should take up the work apart from handling DC because I couldn't figure out whom else could possibly handle for MEA from my batch. So with MEA, my experiences, I've learned a lot from my juniors actually, because in both these teams, like even while working for Synergy, I used to work with my batchmates. So I never really had like a senior. Even in DC, I was the most senior from my club, right? So I didn't have any senior with whom I travel with for during my entire college or something like that. It was more like I traveled with my juniors and I learned from my juniors. So to mention like Satya and Lokesh or Harsha, Adityan, R. Anirudh from the second year when I was in my final year. I have learned a lot from them. I like their work ethic. And I still remember one day we were in Arvind talking, like right outside Zircon. I was talking to Satya, and Satya was like, can we call Karthik Narain for a guest lecture for the Synergy? I was like, yeah, let's try. I thought he was just, this enthusiastic talks, which just happens in talk, but not in practice. I just thought, okay, he's enthusiastic about it, let's see. But a week later, he said that, okay, it's confirmed Karthik Narain is coming for the guest lecture or something like that. So it's just not words, right? Like when you pitch an idea, he also has something that runs in his mind. So I get inspired by that. I learned a lot from my juniors than from my seniors, I would say, during my entire time at MEA. Yeah.
Okay, so can you tell us about Synergy? How do you feel about Synergy?
Okay. So Synergy in every year, it has always been about who's leading the team and how much work they're getting out of the juniors or something like that. So I've been part of every edition of Synergy. I've seen different people leading the team. And even after I graduated, I've been in constant touch with people who are part of Synergy at least 2 years back. So I think it's more about how they lead the team. Like say, for example, Satya or let's say Sai Ganesh. Or like after my batch, we gave it to Sai Ganesh and then it was Satya. So these two, like the way they are focused about, they have an idea for Synergy. They have an honest idea about what they want to get it. I think that's more important. So until now, Synergy has grown because of the people who have an idea for Synergy as to what it has to mean, where it has to be. So I think even going forward, we might need people who actually have an original idea for Synergy, who's honest about their work, and who doesn't expect anything. Like me and Satya, we frequently talk. Like we have no reason why we work for the department. It's just a love at first sight. We don't get any certificates. No prof is going to say, oh, great work or something like that. And it didn't help. Like I definitely didn't mention it in my higher studies. I of course spoke about my masters, like sorry, about my projects in my SOP, not about leading a team or something like that. It's not related, but still we have this constant. I am still in touch with the team. So it's just unexplained love. So we need people like that for synergy. I believe going forward. Yeah.
Okay. So, do you miss India and the campus? How did you manage being away from home?
Yeah, I definitely miss campus. But actually, after graduating, every year I come to India. I visit campus. So after graduating, I visited once. The very next year, I did visit, and that was the time when Synergy ME inauguration happened. So I had planned my travel so that it matches with ME inauguration, and I'm able to attend that. But this year, Corona happened. Otherwise, I would have actually been in India around this time. That was the ideal plan. But then, yeah, things changed. But I do miss campus a lot. I want to get back to. I want to visit the department sometime. Yeah.
Okay. So, that brings us to the end of this session, and it was really inspiring as well as insightful. And I thank you for taking good quality time for attending this session. Thank you so much, Anna.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be a part of Sync, and thank you for the questions, Harry. Yeah, great work at Sync. Keep it up.